Hello and welcome to the Hobby Studio. I am Megan and I am here with a man whose pile of potential is taller and wider than he is himself, Michael.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for that. Okay, we are here. We are a new podcast. We are going to be doing a variety of games in this show, not just in my normal show, The Age of Empire. We're not doing just one game. In that show, that's Heresy. We're going to do a multiple.
We are.
Yeah,
different
games.
Across the board.
So, and that's the plan. So what have we got in store for us today, Megan?
Well, we are covering
Blood Bowl?
Blood Bowl, yes.
Yeah, had to think about it there.
Bolt Action.
Bolt Action, yeah.
And Paint Slam.
Paint Slam, excellent. So what we'll do is we'll run more or less straight into them, and we'll meet you at the other side when we discuss Paint Slam.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I am here and I'm joined by the incredible Dom Saw, who is a well-known guy in, I say, the wargaming community, I would have to say.
I think infamous might be the right term.
Yeah, that might be. That might be. I mean, I was on in a group the other day and someone was like, when you're just reading around for some influence and you find the articles written by Dom Saw. I think
I've done the odd one for War Games Illustrated.
Yes. Okay, so bearing that in mind, can you tell us a bit about your background in gaming and how did you get into it and what you're playing at the minute?
I started way back when my younger brother invited me to come to his friends to play D&D.
Oh,
way back in. And that was D&D as well, not AD&D. Then moved on to, so that was with Russell, and me and him got into Fantasy Battle, 3rd edition. And I then moved on to Epic. Then I discovered beer, kebabs, and sex. So all that stuff went by the by, quite a common story. And then I got back into it probably 10 or so years ago, after my daughter ran off in Phoenix and I picked up a Yak 9 Airfix kit.
Oh.
And then a discussion in a pub with a friend who I've known for even longer than that turned into me talking about painting models, and he went, "Oh, well, I do Warhammer." I was like, "You do Warhammer?" And it just flourished from there. So I got back into Fantasy Battle. Started going to a club in Blythe, and then they started Bolt Action, so I ended up picking up Bolt Action and then various other things after that, including Saga, and I've got a shelf of rule books for various systems behind us. I've even got a shelf of things that are out of date, so things like the old Judge Dredd game, Saga version 1, things like that. But generally, I play Bolt Action, I play Saga, I play kind of Fire and Fury, and a couple of other historical games, Sword Point as well.
Awesome.
And then there's Mortal Gods and Test of Honor and Baron's War. I'm a bit of a Footsore fanatic.
Nice.
It helps that I edited the Baron's War rules, so if there's any editing mistakes, that's all my fault.
Cool, awesome. So what we're going to talk about specifically today is Bolt Action. So I guess, what is it exactly?
It's a 28mm large skirmish, I think is probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah, because it's not quite skirmish. It's a bit, but it's not like, it's a bit sort of in between, sort of like 40k type of size battles and
Yeah, you've got.
Yeah.
I suppose it's platoon level, so that's you'll have 4 or 5 sections in a standard point game. You know, that's somewhere between 750 and 1250 points. You're going to have 4 or 5 sections, depending on how many platoons you've got. But you're talking 60 figures, maybe.
Yeah. And who publishes the game? Is it?
That's it's published by Osprey in conjunction with Warlord Games.
Cool.
I believe, as I understand it, Osprey publish it. Warlord kind of do everything around it.
Yeah, and it's Rick Priestley, isn't it?
Rick Priestley and Alessio Cavatore did it originally.
Cavatore, yeah.
And then second edition, I think Rick had taken a step back by that point. But Alessio's the main driver of it now since second edition.
And obviously they've got a long heritage in the wargaming community. So
they do, and it is a game which, if you've played any of the old Warhammer games, including historics, you will notice some things that have definitely come through. It's D6s to hit, it's D6s to kill. You use 2D6 for morale checks, as they're called in Bolt Action, but they're the same as a leadership test in Fantasy Battle or 40k.
Yeah,
you know, it's very much based around that D6 and 6 inches of movement or shooting, basically.
Right, fantastic. Okay, and I mean, what? So you've already mentioned that it's kind of a platoon level game. So what kind of, I suppose, size and points levels are we talking about there?
Yeah, if you take a regular infantryman is 10 points. That's a regular infantryman with a rifle. You've got 3 experience levels: inexperienced, regular, or veteran. Kind of all the point. We'll stick with regulars.
Yeah.
Most games are generally between 750 and 1250. You can go bigger. People play smaller. There is a sort of individual version called Firefight, which is based more around like a section, so you'd only have 10 figures or so.
Right.
This one is platoon level, so a platoon's normally got 3 sections. Depends on the army. But you'd have sort of a core of infantry, and then you add on things like machine guns and mortars and artillery and vehicles.
Fantastic.
Everyone likes.
And I think there's a tank war variant, isn't there? Just tanks as well.
There is. That adds in what's called an armoured platoon, which have vehicles and tanks as their mainstay rather than infantry sections. You can play infantry platoons against armoured platoons. Some armies work better like that than others. The tank war supplement is good for getting things like lots of tigers on the table.
Yeah.
And things like that. Maybe if you want to refight Battle of the Bulge. The movie version, not the real one.
Yeah.
Tank war is...
The real one was very different.
Yeah. But Tank War, you know, and it's one thing to realise about Bolt Action, it's not a simulation. It's a World War II inspired game.
Yeah.
Like many war games, it's a skin over a system of playing. As you know from board games are kind of that. They're a way of playing, and the theme is almost an add-on to the game. As long as you don't expect a simulation.
So it's like a theme.
Yeah. And it could have been any theme. It just happens to be World War II.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so, I mean, how would you say it differs from, say, Warhammer 40k, which I think most wargamers are familiar with, in terms of its mechanics and stuff?
It's definitely similar enough to cause confusion. Taking fighting as one example. So Warhammer 40k and Bolt Action both roll a number of d6 to hit. You then roll the next lot of d6 to wound. The difference is generally in Bolt Action, nothing is saved. There is no save roll, so you're taking that part out. Medics can change that, but only for certain hits. But generally, there are no saving throws, so it cuts out the step. But then you've got things like ranges and everything are very similar to 40k. For example, pistols are 6 inches, which, if my memory serves us right, on 40k, there are a few weapons which actually do just have that 6-inch range. Flamethrowers don't use templates in Bolt Action, but in many respects act the same as flamers do in 40k, or did. The biggest difference is it's not I go, you go. So I don't do all of my stuff and then you do yours. There is a dice bag, and you put every unit gets an order dice. And you put, so me and you, if we were playing, we would put all our dice in the bag together, give them a good shake, and pick them out one by one.
Right.
If the dice comes out, they get to pick.
Right. So you're not rolling the dice for the orders, because I saw the order dice and I was like, oh, what's them all about? Are you rolling for the orders?
No. You can. It just adds a completely different randomness to the thing. The order dice are there to mark what order a unit has had, so you know which unit has gone. And, so some orders carry on, like ambush. You turn the dice to ambush and put it next to the unit. If they're down, they're harder to shoot at and things like that. So you would put them down, so you know they're down. The others just basically let you know that
so that's quite clever. So it's like a turn marker, status, and activation marker at the same time.
Yeah.
That's actually really clever. I like it.
It is. It also, I think one of the worst parts about I Go, You Go games generally is that you often just sit there and wait for the other person to have their go. And when you've got a sizable amount, like going back to my fantasy battle days, if you've got a 3,000 point army, and I play Dark Elves, so I generally don't have that many units, but if I'm facing someone who's got Skaven, their turn could be 20 minutes before.
I was like an Empire player, so I had long turns.
You've got lots of figures to move about, and even if they've got movement trays, you've got to be careful. And you don't have this. There's always something happening for each player. Now, whether that's you're waiting for your turn and wondering, if he does that, I'm going to do this. But if he does that and that fails, I might do that. And you'll get some turns where you're praying your dice don't come out, so you can go last.
Yeah, I can see how that would be. So there's potential for double and perhaps even triple turns, and
kind of, but you never all the dice always come out. So if you get all yours up front, you're going to be stuck. Later on, not be able to react. So very random, but I suppose that's a bit more like war. It really is. Yeah, and it can change within a turn as well. So start of the turn, I might want the first 2 or 3 dice out, and then they either go really well or really badly, and I'm like, right, I don't want to do anything more now. I need them. I need this unit here of my opponent to have acted.
Cool.
Before I can do my next bit that I want to do. So there are always decisions and choices.
Yeah, so a bit more thinking.
Yeah, and a bit more interaction because you're always involved. So there's less downtime.
Cool, awesome. And so how does one actually get started in Bolt Action? What would you recommend to do to crack on with it?
If it was me, I'd get the rule book Um, it's an easy to read book, and you will refer to it a lot. And there are a number of campaign books, but I would ignore them at the start. You get now, not in the current situation, but normally I would suggest you if you've got a local club or something, you go along and see who plays. Like so, I live in Whitley Bay. We have a club. I'm happy to show anyone bolt action anytime they want. I've got a number of armies which I'll spend a couple of weeks of my club nights showing you how to start to play the game from the ground up. And if you manage to get that taster and you want to continue, you're kind of looking at choosing your army. There is no one better army than the others. All of them can win. It is a bit more balanced like that. That's not to say you can't build a list that's tough. It just means generally in a friendly game, you're not going to come against something that you can't beat.
Awesome.
So I picked Italians because I wanted Bersaglieri because they've got feathers in the hat. That's why I picked my first army entirely. That's it. And I got the Italy and Axis book and the rule book, and I would go from there and stick to the rule book at first, just the main army of book, because that's what you get: armies of the US, armies of the Soviet Union, armies of Italy and the Axis, armies of France and the Allies. Get that one book and just stick to the units in the book to start with, because there are 20-something books all in all. Can't remember how many of them are campaign books off the top of my head. They add extra units, extra choices. It's just easier to start there. If you only like plastics, you've got less choice. So again, for example, the Italians don't have any plastics, infantry or anything. They do have one lot of plastic tanks from Warlord and another one from Rubicon, either on the way or coming. I mean, on the way or out already.
Yeah.
Whereas the US or the British or the Soviets or the Germans have lots of plastic options. You could almost build a full plastic army without.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone for early war Germans because the person I was going to start it with, but since moved away, so that project sort of got left aside for a minute. I've got the stuff I've got resin, metal, and plastics, and it's great.
Yeah. You get all sorts. But once things change, Michael, I'm happy to give you a game with my home guard, if you like.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
They are when the Great Panjandrum comes out.
Yeah.
Which I took to a tournament in Paris and confused everybody. Because they had no idea what it was or what it did. It's very silly. It didn't actually do anything in any of the games other than confuse my French opponents.
Cool. And of course, you've already sort of mentioned there are other manufacturers out there as well, not just Warlord, for getting the models from. So
yeah, it's 28mm, which is we'll try not to start a scale war. The vehicles are 1 in 56.
Yeah,
that's what most people produce them in. Certainly Warlords are. The figures are 28mm, which is basically 1 in 56 height.
Yeah,
but 1 in 48 shoulders. It's heroic scale, and 28mm is in aesthetic, not a scale. But generally, they're near enough. The only thing I would say when on scale is if you go for 1 in 56 or 1 in 48, just pick one. There is a big difference between the two, a noticeable difference between the two. But other than Warlord, you've got Rubicon, who do a lot of vehicles. You've got Great Escape Games, who produce a lot of the more esoteric forces. They've got quite a decent range of Greeks and Romanians. Who else? They've got Hungarians. I think they've got some Bulgarians coming as well. Perry do some really nice desert rats.
Oh, yeah, I've seen their stuff. They're nice.
Yeah, they're more kind of true scale 1 in 56. But you've got someone like Offensive Miniatures. Assault Group have quite a range of Japanese, including some of the more odd things they have, as well as I think they've got US Marines and a couple of others. Artisan have some Germans. Black Tree Design have a number of ranges. Then you've got Kromlech, who a lot of the 40k fans will know, who have a range of Polish. And very nice. Yeah, and they're very nice. They are more like Perrys rather than Warlords, so the more 1 in 56 kind of true scale rather than heroic scale. Nothing wrong with that. And they're just the ones I can think of off the top of my head. You add in something like Footsaw's very British Civil War range, or War range, which is what most of my home guard are. Eureka Miniatures, they've got some things like that.
Excellent. I'll have to put a list in the show notes as well.
Yeah, JTFM, they do vehicles. Company B, Trenchworks, who Warlord sell as well. So many
awesome options out there, really, isn't there?
Yes, there are.
Is the good thing about it being real world rather than fantasy with restrictions on copyrights and trademarks and stuff. So
yes,
yeah, awesome.
Is one of the best bits about it. And if you get little niche ranges like Infamous JT does a range of Warsaw Uprising figures, including the Cubus, which was a homemade armoured vehicle that the Polish Home Army made in Warsaw. And I think he sold more than what actually made in real life, but it's a bit like Stugs. Yeah, so many options. Oh, the other thing you do definitely need is a set of order dice for your own army. It's generally best if you've got two kind of contrasting colours, just in case you turn up to a club night or an event and the opposition's got the same dice as you.
Right, yeah. So you might want say if you're doing Germans, you might want grey and red, perhaps, or
possibly. Lots of German players have the grey ones. Lots of British players have the olive ones.
Yeah.
If you have a different colour, either you can both use your dice or you've got another option. The chances of them both being the same, if you've got two and they've only got one of them should stand out enough to be able to be used.
Right, fantastic. Okay, cool. Now I think it's fair to say that the bolt action community is very much veteran war gamers. So in a lot of games like that, there can be sort of almost insularness to the community. I haven't actually felt that with myself when I've been sort of dipping my toe into bolt action, but how welcoming would you say the community is in general?
It's generally very welcoming. I wouldn't say it's actually veteran war gamers. There are quite a few new people who join. The general community online is a little less toxic than some communities we could mention.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, it is a friendlier thing, and even the tournaments are friendlier. Because I enjoy going to tournaments and events because it's generally a good laugh. That's what you get. You don't get a lot of the. You still get the kind of players that we all know that you kind of rather wouldn't play against, but they're few and far between.
Oh, right, fantastic.
Yeah,
fantastic. And just touching on paintings. So I suppose when I looked at bolt action, it's a very, very different painting style. So I think a lot of gamers might be used to and might have played in the past. So in terms of that, what kind of painting standards are expected at events and clubs and tournaments and that? Because I think that is something that can put people off if they see a painting style that's like, oh, that's so different to what I'm used to,
Yes. One thing about painting World War II things is unless you start doing some of the weird German camo patterns, generally everyone's tunics are one colour, and the trousers are another, and they have less equipment, and they don't have skulls and little paper bits hanging off them.
Yeah, indeed.
So it's strange because the figures are probably easier to paint in many respects because there's less to them. They don't have as much equipment. They're not as big. It's all very muted colours as well. You're not trying to get a bright pink generally, or a bright yellow, which that's a terrible colour to try and paint. They're all greens and browns. They're all paints that have got good coverage, which means they're easier to paint overall. And one of the nice things about bolt action events is I can't think of one where nothing was painted.
Ah, that's good.
It's like everything's painted. Personally, like the only reason I paint is because I don't let myself play with unpainted models.
I'm the same.
I don't care if you do or don't. That's got nothing to do with me. I only let myself play with painted models because if I didn't, I'd never paint anything, and all mine would just be bare metal or plastic.
I'm the same, and I also think it sort of shows a bit of respect for your opponent, that because I mean I've got all the time in the world to paint, so I should show my opponent a bit of respect by giving them something painted to play against. Whereas I understand others don't necessarily have that time. So
yeah,
if that makes any sense.
But at no event I've ever been to, or even any club games, would anyone give you any stick for not having painted things.
Yeah,
it's one of them things where everyone paints their stuff. Although I dare say I've seen unpainted things, I've just never taken any notice because it's you want to get new toys on the table, everyone does, but people make the effort when they go elsewhere to make sure they've got something painted.
Fantastic. And obviously there are some very specific colours, thinking German Feldgrau, and thankfully there are I've noticed.
Which colour of German Feldgrau?
Yes.
There are a number of shades of that. I'm sure someone will put the meme up.
I've got into the I've found that there are many opinions on Feldgrau.
And none of them are wrong and none of them are right.
Yes. So I've definitely learned.
Yeah, you can go very specific, and like I'm kind of the kind of painter who likes to get it right, but I don't care if I'm not spot on.
Yeah, and so, thankfully there are a number of ranges out there. Vallejo Army Painter that have got very specialist colours for World War II gaming.
Yeah, Vallejo great. I've got the full set because that's just the kind of person I am. And they've got some good ones. I would add in Ammo by Mick Jimenez. They've got some really nice colours, and they're built for going through an airbrush. They've got some really good weathering products as well, sort of Vallejo. But you can also use the contrast paints.
Mm-hmm.
One of my next projects is to do some D-Day Americans who will be done in contrast paints.
Oh, very nice.
Just because it's easier in some respects. You just whip them on. There are plenty of guides out there to get what you want. The Flames of War guides are really, really good, especially for the minor nations, like the Romanians and the Italians that I've done. That I couldn't have done them without the Flames of War colour guides.
Fantastic. Okay, now this is a bit more of a serious question, but I suppose, how would you reconcile the idea of playing with armies like the Germans, the Soviets, and the Japanese? And silly alert on the computer, I thought I turned that off. By that, I mean in most games, your baddies are stereotypical Saturday morning cartoon villains, but in Bolt Action, they're very, very real, and they committed atrocities, which, we never want to see again. So how do you walk the line between playing them but not glorifying them in a way, I suppose, is So that's something I struggled with my choice of deciding to play Germans. It's sort of like I keep having the thing, if I can't really celebrate if I win a game, really, can I?
Um, there is a big difference though between playing an army and glorifying what that army did historically,
Yeah.
and what that nation did. I chose Italians. They don't exactly have clean hands.
No.
Well, someone will make the argument that all armies did bad things. They do. This is the nature of warfare. There are some armies and nations who systematically try to do nasty things on purpose, and there is a big difference. But there's the glib and simple response is someone has to be the baddies. And like me, I picked Italians because they got silly feathers in the hats. That's why I picked them. Other people will pick SS because they get all the what's known as the cool camo patterns. Me personally, I'll avoid the SS like the plague. One, because of the SS, and two, because I don't want to paint camo. I'm lazy.
Yeah, I've made a choice to not do SS at all because I just don't want to.
I don't have Italian paras because I can't be bothered doing the camo that they had. That's my choice. Most people who play the games don't have a strong political opinion about them one way or the other. It's something that happened. You can pick any period in history. Take the Mongols are a prime example. Genghis Khan rocks up outside a city and says surrender. They say no. The whole city gets put to the sword when he conquers it. There's
of course.
The obvious atrocities during World War II, which the game doesn't try to minimise, but at the same time, they're not part of the game.
Yeah,
you're not setting up camps. You're not doing anything like that. It's not easy to reconcile for some people. So some people, like I say, won't touch the SS. They won't touch the Japanese. Having one of those armies doesn't make you a bad person.
Yeah.
I would say. You've known me well enough to know that even if I've got Japanese, I don't support them politically.
Yeah.
I've known you well enough to know that you've got Germans, you aren't a Nazi,
Yeah. Cool.
That doesn't mean that doesn't exist. I do admin the two big bolt action groups on Facebook, and we have removed people who have had that attitude towards their armies. That's not very often. I can think of maybe 10 or 20 people over the 6 or 7 years, maybe more now actually, that have been kind of involved in that side of things.
Awesome. Well, that's good to know. It's such a low number. Awesome. And okay, so I will actually put links to those groups in there, and which leads very nice on to the next question, the last question, which is, where would you recommend people go to find out about starting the game? And indeed, where can we see more of your work?
Well, local groups, I think, is a great place to start. The Bolt Action Facebook pages and Bolt Action International are quite nice. There's a long story as to why there's two, but basically Bolt Action International is a private group. So if you want to get involved and don't want your friends knowing that you're into nerdy stuff, because there is that old joke about wargamers hiding the Wargames magazines inside pornographic magazines because that's less embarrassing to be caught with. The Bolt Action page itself is a public page. They're generally quite nice, and if they are the pages where if you have any trouble, you speak to an admin and the admin will sort it out. You get times when it goes the other way, but that's the nature of social media in today's world. You can't have it your own way. Warlord have their forums, which I believe are still going somewhere. I haven't looked at them myself in a long time, so I don't know. I'm just having a quick look. Yeah, the forums are still there. They'll give you a more detailed bit and involved. It looks like plenty of people getting involved on there, which is good. My personal stuff is infrequently updated on my Facebook page and my Instagram of Don's Dodgy Dice.
Dodgy Dice, yeah. Fantastic.
You'll get something every day for about a month, and then I disappear. And it's normally because the hobby I'm doing is kind of mental rather than physical. So I'm editing something or writing something, or my hobby streak tends to not just be painting.
Yeah, which is not a bad thing at all.
No. But like local groups in the bolt action pages on Facebook, plus the forums, Warlords forums are kind of your good places.
Good place to start.
Yeah, there are some podcasts out there like the Juggernauts and, well, there was Bolt Action Radio, but I think they've kind of stopped. There are a few out there though. They're South Wales Warlords, possibly. They're long, involved podcasts, which is no good for me because I've got a short attention span. Sorry.
That's all right. Fantastic. Okay, well, I think that's about all we want to cover today. We'll definitely have to have you back on again because I think we're going to talk about Saga next time. Which I'm really looking forward to. And hopefully we'll do some more on Bolt Action as well.
I am always happy to help or point you in the direction of someone who knows more than me.
Awesome. Brilliant.
There's one or two out there somewhere.
Okay, guys, I'm joined now by Stephen from South Tyneside, isn't it?
Tyneside, yes.
Yeah, I'm getting myself all mixed up between North and South there. So anyway, right, so we're going to talk a little bit about Blood Bowl because it's just had a new edition released, which I think is this the 5th? No, 6th?
It's the 6th edition.
6th edition? Yeah.
It's not the first. Sorry, it's the 3rd box set.
Yeah.
It's the second one recently. I started playing it 20 years ago when it had the old metal.
Yeah.
White lead, you would call them.
Oh yes. Okay, so I think what we'll do first of all is we'll just get a little bit of background about Stephen as well. So we'll ask him what's his background in the hobby, how long he's been in the game for, and when he got started. So fire away, Stephen. What's your story, as it were?
Well, I started many years ago. I think it's nearly. I started playing a game called Hero Quest.
Oh yeah.
My friend got us into that, and I was hooked. I then went and bought the Road Trader. At that time, literally next to no miniatures. So I had the original Space Marine box set, RTB ones. Years long gone by. I collected some Space Marines, which were Dark Angels. I also had massive Undead Army.
Nice.
Massive. 200 skeletons. Another one way to collect it.
Sounds awesome. Cool. And I think you said you worked for GW at one point as well?
I did, yes. Just before my son was born, who is now 26. So that shows you how long ago I worked for GW.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch the age of your son there, sorry.
I started, my son was about 26-year-old now, so...
Oh, so it was before your son was born. Wow, so that's gone back a while. Was that in your Newcastle store?
I started in the Metro Centre store.
Ah.
The Metro Centre hadn't long been open. And I started working there. And got a promotion to Shrewsbury.
Nice.
Store manager at Shrewsbury.
Oh, so maybe some of the grognards might remember you.
I went from Shrewsbury to Harrogate, and then I was actually the manager of Sunderland, so I came closer to home.
Ah, was it still in that little place it still is now?
Yes.
Yeah, it's more like a cupboard than a store.
Shrewsbury was basically the size of a garage.
Yeah.
It was about the size of a garage. You could literally get one 8-foot by 4-foot board in it, and that was about it.
Yeah. There are some very small stores out there.
Oh,
Definitely. Okay, cool. So, and what armies are you painting at the minute, or collecting, or playing?
Oh, right.
At the minute, are we?
On board here, I have a massive Admech army.
Yep. Oh, Admech, yeah.
Yes, liking that lots. I was so pleased when the Skitarii came out.
Oh, yeah. I was as well. Over the moon.
Those for quite a while. I've got a decent sized Imperial Fist army.
Mm-hmm.
Also doubled up as a 30k army.
Oh, 30k. Which are you collecting in 30k, sorry?
It's Imperial Fists. I can use them in both. I've kind of tweaked it just enough so they're all in 3 and mark armor and use them both 30k and 40k.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, the other show I do is a heresy show, so yeah, we got an Imperial Fist player on there, so he'll be very interested.
Excellent. I only started playing Age of Sigmar last year. I built up a friend of mine on a Death Army, and I expanded on that to include Flesh Eater Courts and Pythons, going by the Mortal Realms magazine.
Nice. Yeah, that's a very good magazine.
It is very good. I'd really suggest people will get it. It's very worthwhile. And I've also got a massive Age Sigmar Stormcast Eternals army.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, so I suppose we'll get into the meat of why we're here today, which is to talk about the new season of Blood Bowl. So, I mean, I know what it is, but some people might not know what it is. So, how would you describe what Blood Bowl is?
Blood Bowl is basically a 2-player game on a pitch, and you have 2 teams. It's basically rugby, American football, and violence all thrown in the one.
That sounds about right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's lots of. I remember from back in the day, you know, when I first got started, and you had all the team names crossing over, like the Auckland Raiders and
yes,
yeah, and the Greenskin. Was it the Greenskin Packers?
Greenskin Packers, yes, I believe it was. Yes.
Lots of very cool team names. So
it's just actually good for being white metal at the time.
Yeah, because I was playing Warhammer Fantasy. First time I was sort of exposed to Blood Bowl, and I got my Chaos Dwarves, so that was me happy, because it was about the time that Chaos Dwarves were like essentially kicked out of the store because they didn't make them anymore.
That's right. Yes, the basics just cancelled, and didn't they? You can get them in Forge World now.
Oh yeah, you can get them from Forge World, which is fantastic, and I keep meaning to do that, so I will one day. Well, I've got some somewhere, but yeah. So so it's, as you say, it's basically American football in thing, and it uses a lot of similar mechanics to the old Warhammer games, or it used to.
Yeah, it's very turn-based.
Yeah.
It is all turn-based. The downside is, if you fail to do something, it's called turnover, which means then your opponent gets to do all his things.
Yeah, so it's a very thinking game, isn't it?
Yes, you've got to plan ahead.
Yeah, because
strategic.
Yeah, do all the easy stuff first, and then try your difficult stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what kind of teams? Again, I'm asking these questions rhetorically, but I'm trying to be the listener, as in, might not necessarily know. So, what type of teams are in Blood Bowl? What type of races and groups?
Well, in compared to 2016 version, you've actually got the two teams, which are the Imperial Nobility team, which are kind of like a human team from the old style.
Yep, is it the start? Yeah.
Yep. You've also got a Black Orc team, which is a brand new team as well, which is primarily Black Orcs and Goblins. There's no Orcs in there. And in the box, for the first time ever, you actually have star players and big guys. The star players are the ones that are set statistic for the game. So you've got Griff Overwald.
Yeah.
And he's brand new setup. I believe is his third or fourth inclination.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the last Griff model from Ford World, and it's nowhere near as nice as this one.
No, this one is a little bit harder to put together, mind. I'll deal with that. You've also got Varagul Chewer, the Black Orc team.
Again, massive upgrade in that model compared to the Ford World one.
He's bigger than a Black Orc. He's massive.
Yeah.
And you've also got two big guys, which is the first time you've had them in a box, which is an Ogre and a Troll.
Yeah, so the big guys are like, how would your big muscle players that...
They're not very bright. They're guaranteed to punch people, but you won't do much more than 30.
Yeah.
They'll not pick up a ball, not score a lot of touchdowns, but they will all year.
Yeah, and that's pretty much universal for all big guys in the game as well.
Yeah. And for the first time ever as well, you now have referees.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're
on his back and first with a big ball.
Yeah, they're really nice models. Definitely, they've definitely gone out their way to make some extremely beautiful models in this game. So, and then other teams you've got. I mean, one of the good things I like about the new rulebook, and before we mention the rules, is the way they give you an almost rating for the teams.
The tier system, yes.
Yeah, so it's like for the first time out. I mean, we all knew. I mean, let's face it. We all knew that playing with halflings was playing with a hand behind your back.
Yes.
And dice that were completely crooked and always landing on a 1. So, but it's like for the first time ever, they've actually put into the rule system, although it doesn't actually have any impact on the rules, a easy way to see, yes, this is a team that is going to do really, really well, or this is a team that's going to be a challenge to play.
Yes, I think they've made it a lot easier for somebody who's just starting and go, right, okay, this is a tier 1 team. So that tier 1 team is easier to actually work compared to a tier 3 team where it needs a lot more focus behind it to get some wins. Yeah,
exactly. And that's a really good thing about Blood Bowl. It is very... You can go from having your really easy team, like your I'm just trying to think of a tier 1 team off the top of my head. I'll have to grab the book to open it. But
you're a tier 1 team.
Sorry,
Skaven, I believe, are a tier 1 team.
Are they? Well, that's nice.
Yes. Which I happen to have.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I just painted the Skaven team at the beginning of the year, so I look forward to that. But they are nice because they're fun. But you've got lots of archetypes, like you've got your halflings, which are hard to play. As you said, your Skaven, so your rat men. You've got your elves, dark elves. They've got wood elves, haven't they?
The half elves, yes.
But they don't. I don't think they have high elves yet.
No, you have the Elven Union, which you can kind of as high elf.
Yeah. But there's lots of cool teams. And one of the things I loved ever since when the Blood Bowl 2016 edition was introduced, it was kind of, in my opinion, they were kind of trying to be a bit more serious. These are serious models. But as Blood Bowl's gone on over the past 4.5 years, we've gone a bit more towards the ridiculous, which is what Blood Bowl was always about, at least when I was a kid.
It was very tongue-in-cheek, and I think they're returning to that idea now.
Yeah, because, I mean, you've got the... my favourite are definitely the necromantic horror with the, the scarecrows. and the ridiculousness of the snotlings.
Yes, you've got quite a few snotlings and 2 pump wagons in the team. I think there's 20 snotlings, which is quite. I've got the sheet in front of me, so 6, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 snotlings.
Yeah, plus your pump wagons, and they're definitely on my list to grab at some point. But there's so many cool teams out there now, which is amazing. And you think where we've come from when it was just literally 3-box teams. 4-box teams initially with the 2016 edition, wasn't it?
Yes, you've now got actually 8 teams with actual figures for.
Yep, and then a bunch of resin stuff as well from Forge World, which is great.
And also in the rulebook, you can increase that 18 teams to 21 by combining some of these teams together. So, for instance, they
got the Old World Union and
the Old World Union, which is dwarfs and humans, and
the
some
World
halflings. And you got the Underworld Denzians, which is Skaven and goblins.
Yep, that's a very fun one.
Yep. And you've also got the Chaos Renegades.
Oh yeah, I forget about them because that seems relatively. That wasn't. I mean, I remember them from before, but they definitely gotten a bit more push this time.
Well, they're primarily a human team, but you can include an orc, a dark elf, a skaven, and a goblin.
Yeah. You can get, I think it's one of each of those, isn't it?
Yes, and you're also allowed up to 3, which it's huge.
Three big guys, yeah, because you can get the ogre, the minotaur, and the rat ogre,
and the troll,
and you can have the troll as well. Oh,
have 3 of any of those, but you can only have 1 of each.
Yeah, I forgot about the troll, but of course I'd have the troll. Excellent. Okay, so I think what we'd like to sort of cover now is what would you say are the big changes from what we had to what we have now?
Well, to be honest, it's a very similar game, but a lot easier to play. Included some simplified rules.
Yep.
Included some extra abilities for your teams.
Yeah.
And they've increased on things like the tournament play, exhibition games, and actually how to increase your gang or team or whatever you want to call it, skills wise.
Yep, excellent. Yeah, I mean, so it's really taken a lot of the content that, let's face it, that's what we played Blood Bowl for. You know, one-off matches are fantastic, but where it really shines is league play.
Yes. Actually have suggestions to start off. Instead of you starting off with 1 million gold coins, which used to be the only way to start playing, and then you play games and the team would get skills, star player points, you get more cash, buy troops, so on and so on and so on. Now actually in the rulebook, they'll say, right, okay, if you want to have an exhibition game, say you're playing for 1,300,000 gold coins, those extra guys. And you can also say, right, we will agree on 36 star player points. From those 36 star player points, you can buy skills for some of your players. So you're not starting off with a bog standard basic team every time you play. A lot of people find it hard to play a league. So you have 4 or 5 players all want to play, but time constraints, normal life gets involved, and it's quite hard to do. So it's made this a lot easier to get bigger games in or better games.
Yeah, because before your exhibition games were like, it's a million credits. You can get 12, maybe 13, maybe 14 players, depending on how many little guys you take in. You're lucky. And now it feels like
Ogres and so forth, or the Chaos chosen teams, who were very struggling hard to get more than 11 players.
Yep. So now it feels like a more, at least to me, it feels like when you're having an exhibition match, you can actually have an exhibition match that feels like a league match.
Yes. And you're always struggling to put in star players.
Yep.
Just for the points.
Definitely. And I think they've taken a lot of inspiration for this from the video game.
Yes.
Which is let's be honest, that's one of the ways that the community thrives so much for all these years, especially pre 2016.
I unfortunately only play the Xbox game, so being able to comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, I've got it on the Xbox as well, and I got it on the PC in a humble bundle, I think it was, but it is very good, and there are games of it going on all the time. It's, very important in this pandemic, and I think they are releasing a third version of the game with the new updated rules.
Yes, I think that's not far away, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I know they gave out public beta keys with the new edition box set when it first went on sale. So, although I didn't get that at the time. So, the other thing that I think is a fantastic change is the way they've actually split. They put the pass skill out as a
yes.
skill as well. I mean that was like I remember that being a thing when I was a kid. So.
It's a very different breaking from the norm where now passing is a lot harder to do because unless you have pass skill on your stat, you can't pass.
Yeah, and not every player has that, so it sort of makes their roles a little bit better defined.
Yes, it sort of like streamlines the game in a sense, so you're not having to say get linemen to make him a thrower. Your linemen are there to soak up a lot of damage. It's your positionals that are ones that you're going to increase on. So on.
Yeah, and I think the other big change was changing it from the old, rule of taking away from 7, and it's just a straight up dice, attainment thing, like a 5+ and a 3+.
Changing so it's matching, say, for instance, the 40k and the new Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, which I think that's
on a 3.
I think that's a big change because people just didn't get why are we doing this? Why can't you just say, what you've got to get?
It makes a lot more sense in that aspect. You need a 3+ to do something, but then you have to include them with the buyers.
Yeah, and more beginner friendly as well, isn't it?
Definitely. If somebody looks at it and say, right, okay, you need a 3+ to throw that ball, you roll that dice. If you get a 3, 4, 5, or 6, you've done it.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I think the other big change we've got the sort of the regions, I guess, as it were, that have sort of been not the regions. The what's the word I'm looking for? It's almost like the regions. It's the sort of where am I? The I can't remember the word. Is it the regions?
Are you meaning for things where certain people can play with certain other teams?
Yeah. So it's changed from just being this player. Like you had Morgan Forg, and it was like he can play for everybody but this team.
Yeah, I'm not going into the rule book to say the special rule, for instance, is Badlands Brawl for an Orc team. So anybody who has that ability is able to play for an Orc team. So all players, if they have to have the Badlands Brawl special ability, then they can play for an Orc team.
Yeah.
If they have Old World Classic, then any of them can play for, say, like a human team or a dwarf team.
Yeah, and it seems to have, at least in my opinion, kind of streamlined that a little bit.
Yes, it makes it a lot more concise. So if you're looking at the star player, all right, who can he play for? For instance, they go Wood Elf teams. It's an Elven Kingdoms League.
Yeah.
If you look at star players, plays for any team with either the Badlands Brawl or Underworld's Challenge special rules, which is the Black Goblin. So he can't play for a Wood Elf team.
Yeah, so really, really simple.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of been the overall philosophy with this version of the game. It's simpler, yet at the same time more. This probably just sounds more complex at the same time. If that makes any sense.
The fact that what you can play with who you can play.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier.
Yeah. It's like it's a lot more accessible as a game, but it has made it just, it's sort of see, I'm terrible at this word stuff, and I'm supposed to be a podcaster. Right. What I was trying to say is it's a really simple and easy game to get into now, and I think they've made it a lot easier to get into if you've never played Blood Bowl before, but you do have the incentive to go further and deeper because it can get a lot harder and very difficult to master.
Yes, I'll definitely agree on that. The box set itself, for what you get in it, the contents it's
absolutely got to be one of the best value box sets that I have seen GW do for a very long time. Was it? It's just silly good value.
I mean, is it £80 that GW?
So you can get that. You can get that. 15-20% off depending on where you go.
Yeah,
but
for £80, you're getting 2 12-man teams or 12 dynamically posed coloured plastic teams.
Yep. Plus your big guys.
Plus 2 big guys, plus 2 star players, plus 2 referees.
Yeah, it's
just phenomenal for the amount of figures that you're getting in. You're also getting 2 sets of dice and the 2 different coloured dice as well. So you got the red ones, which you can use for the mobility, and the green ones, which you can use for the Black Walk team.
Plus you got your full pitch, and I think it's double-sided if I recall.
Yes, one side is grasslands and the other side is astrogranite. Just approximately 90 centimeters by 54 centimeters wide.
Yeah, and you got your templates that you've pretty much got a full set of everything to play with. I think the only thing lacking is paint and paintbrushes and glue.
Yeah, you do need glue to put the figures together. They're not snap fit.
No.
Or easy to build, I should say.
Yeah, but it's just, I mean, looking at the paint jobs that people have done already, they're just absolutely phenomenal.
There's so much detail on these figures, it's unreal.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show, I mean, compare these to the old white metal and lead, and it's like, it's a world of difference.
Even the old plastic single pose figures these are by far much better.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Black Orcs have got to be one of the best looking Blood Bowl teams I've ever seen.
Oh, they're mean as hell.
Oh yeah, they look like they could rip you a new one. And yeah, so that's a absolutely amazing Blood box set. And I love that they did Astrogranite because I remember back when they had the polystyrene Astrogranite pitch.
Yes, with the pre-imprinted tiles or squares. And it was a lot smaller in those days, and I believe it wasn't in one piece, it was in 4 pieces.
Yeah, of course, because the board is bigger, which means your old templates won't work as in 2016. But
they do actually give you a throw-in template.
Yeah, they give you all the templates. Yeah, all the templates are in there. The throwing template, the passing template, and the scatter template. They're all in there.
No, I mean there's a template diagram for how far you can throw the ball.
Oh yeah, there is in the book now, isn't there? Yeah.
So it's 6 squares by 6 squares.
Yeah.
You can throw it whatever, and it actually tells you what is a quick pass, what is a short pass, and what the modifiers of those are.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really, really, really good. I mean, I love this game, and I can't wait to get a game of it myself once this horrible lockdown is lifted.
Yes, I haven't had a game in quite a few months now, so I'm starting to be itching to get a game.
Oh, definitely. I mean, just want to roll some dice. I mean, I got the Skaven dice and card pack when they came out.
Yeah.
Which is kind of bad because I realised I have 3 sets of Skaven dice now.
3?
Yeah, they did one when it first came out. Then they reissued them with a slightly different design. And then they just issued a new one, and I didn't realise I bought all 3.
It's fun.
And then I was looking on the prices on eBay, and I'm like, I should really sell those.
There is cheat sheets that come in the box, which is a lot.
Yeah. They had them in the old edition, and they were absolutely invaluable because it's
wonderful.
Yeah, because it is a really deep game. You know, your weather can change the weather can actually change the actual makeup of the game, which is phenomenal. You've got your fans going mental. There's so much going on in this game that I think there's a fear that sometimes you can get overwhelmed, but the cheat sheets really lay everything out. So
it's pages long, and it goes section by section by section.
Yeah.
You can't.
It's such a simple way to do it. So yeah, that definitely. So if someone wanted to come to Blood Bowl for the first time, how would you say they should do it?
Well, for one, buying the actual box game, it's really worthwhile. You might even get some of the old 2016 versions, which has got the old team and the old human team. They're still models, still worthwhile.
Oh yeah, they're still lovely models.
But for this, just buying the box set alone is enough to be starting with. You will need some polystyrene glue, unfortunately. Like I say, they're not snap models. Great way to start, and what you want to do is you and your friend sit down, have a quick look through the cheat sheet, and then start a game. That tells you everything you need to do.
Yeah, and I think because it is simpler now, if you do want to start it with your other half, I think they're less likely to be sort of, no, it sounds too complicated, I don't want to do it. I definitely found that with my other halves. They're now actually more interested in playing the game because the rules don't require you to subtract from 7.
Yes. It makes it a lot more simple.
Yeah. Anyway, awesome. So I think that's about what we want to cover. So thank you for joining us, Stephen, and hopefully we'll have you on again.
You are more than welcome, my good friend.
Right, so you may have seen in the past couple of years the hashtag #PaintHammer, especially on Michael's huge number of Instagram posts.
It's not that many, is it?
Well,
yeah.
You paint a lot.
I do.
You do.
I do. Okay. So #PaintHammer, it was a hobby log that's been set up by our friend Jessica, Jessica Smart of Jewel Knight Jess Mini Painting. But this year she's given it a bit of a new name, Paint Slam. And I'm looking at the notes. I don't think we actually explained why she changed the name.
I'm not sure I know. Why did she change it?
Well, she changed it because Paint Hammer is very Warhammer. It is, although in although it's always been about any system, Paint Hammer evokes Warhammer.
It does, yeah.
And by changing it to Paint Slam,
Paint Slam is more.
It's more open to other systems like your Bolt Actions and your Elder Scrolls and stuff like that. So
it's more open to other systems, basically. It's
more open, yeah.
So the name's changed.
Yeah.
But it's in essence the same thing. It's a hobby log, and you use it to either print out or put onto your computer, your phone, any smart device you want, chisel it into a piece of rock somewhere, and you basically keep track over the course of the year what goals you wanted to fulfill and what you've painted and what you've been doing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So it's really handy. The log's laid out. I mean, I'm looking at last year's log right now, and it's laid out. You've got your game system, what you painted, number of models you've in that unit or model, the running total, which is really handy to keep track of, and your date of completion, as well as a space for any goals that you have. Although I don't tend to fill this out because mine tend to be quite long. Yeah,
you have huge lists of goals. Yeah. I have small amounts of goals. I tend to just put the one most relevant to the log itself, which is the total number of models or something I want painted, which because it gives you the running total, so it's easy to stick there.
True. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you've finished some models, you're encouraged to share them. You don't have to. You're not required to, but you can share them on social media. Use the hashtag PaintSlam21. Everybody can see what you're doing. Jess, if you tag her, Jewel Knight Jess, that is, on Twitter and Instagram, will retweet it, and she features people on her blog.
Yep, she does. So I mean, I've been doing this for a couple of years. You started it last year.
I did.
And last year. So what did we actually do last year?
Last year, I forget what my goal was last year.
I think it was to paint a model for every week.
No, for every month, because but in 2019 I hardly picked up a brush.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to paint a unit a month in 2020, and I started off the year really strong and smashed out some 40k Blood Angels.
Yep, you did.
And helped you do some scenery for
Company of Legends. That never happens.
But we did the scenery.
Yeah.
It's there. It's there for when it happens.
We've got scenery, guys. We've got 15 tables of scenery, guys.
So, yeah, and I kind of fizzled off from there with the pandemic. It just dampened my enthusiasm to paint.
Yeah. I think some people, it was a case of the pandemic either absolutely destroyed your motivation to paint because you couldn't game, or it just ramped it up and you were like, yes, I'm going to go. I think I was kind of the opposite. I ended up doing, 1,413 models last year. 120 of them were chain rasps, I'll point out, but still.
I painted 52.
Yeah. Bit of a discrepancy there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just having a quick look. I did like 11 pages of this hobby log. So,
wow.
Quite a lot of Death Korra Krieg. There was some quite a bit of Death Guard. A lot of Blood Ravens. Scenery, a lot of Night Haunt. So it was all good. It was all good. It weren't all for me, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that was, I got my Militarium Tempestus finished. I got a 2,000 point Tau army painted, 2,000 point Stormcast Eternal army painted.
Still no Warhound on there.
The Warhound will get done this year. The Warhound's getting done this year. So what are we doing this year? What are our aims this year?
Yeah. I went to sleep.
Yeah, you put your notes on the iPad and it went to sleep.
Yeah, and it went to sleep. So my aims, pretty much like last year, my aim is just to paint more than I did last year. So I want to paint more than 52 models. That's not going to be hard.
Oh, you did all those Stuffed Fables models, didn't you?
I did do the Stuffed Fables models,
yeah.
Yes.
Board game
models.
Very good board game. By, I don't know who it's by now. It was by Played Hat, but they've been spun off back to the original creator, and I think it stayed with Fantasy Flight.
Okay.
This is a tangent.
Yes.
Do we need a tangent warning siren like on Age of Empire?
What for when you talk about manatees?
We're not talking about manatees.
No.
This is a manatee-free show.
A manatee-free podcast.
Unless the audience demands it, I mean. Seriously, there was an incident with a manatee in January, and honestly, we had to delete the posts because everybody just posted about this. And it was not a nice thing either, to be honest, but everyone was all like, oh my God, have you seen this manatee?
Yeah.
So that was a thing. Anyway, yeah.
So you did the manatee. The bit of a manatee tangent this time.
I did the manatee tangent. Yeah, okay.
So you're always blaming the other guys from the manatee tangents, and actually, guys, it's Michael. Yeah. Michael's to blame.
Okay,
blame him.
I'm blaming. All right. Are there any specific targets you've got?
So basically 53 models or more I want to paint, and then I want to paint. I want to get round to orcs. So 1,000 points of orcs. Mm-hmm. Of which I have currently managed to paint 60 points.
As of time of recording.
As of time of recording. Which is, that's good. It's only the very beginning of January we're recording this.
To be honest,
So-
that could be like 100 orc boys for that many points.
It could be. It's
Nah,
5 models.
You've got a fair few.
That's 5
You've got a
models.
fair few big ins to put in there. You've got a
have.
Morkanaut, a Gorkanaut. You've got the Wazbomb blaster jet thing.
Yes.
A few buggies. So
Some
yeah,
interesting things to put in.
flash kits.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I want to improve my edge highlighting because since starting to use a wet palette, I've realised that I can actually edge highlight.
Yeah, wet palettes really take. If anybody is on the is sort of thinking wet palette's not for me, because that was me. I was like, oh, wet palette, that seems like a really advanced painting technique. It's probably not something I'm going to do. But seriously, wet palette took my painting from my edge highlighting anyway, from here to here. It's a big jump, and you can do that because you can thin the paint down better. You're less tempted to go, oh, I need a bit, I can't be bothered to thin it down on the palette, I'm just going to grab it straight from the pot. No, you thin it down on the wet palette.
Yeah.
It stays wet for
For me,
longer.
it actually stays wet.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was using a palette, the reason I'd be more tempted to just take it from the pot for doing a small bit is because it
dries
it dries on the palette
really
so
quickly. Yeah.
So by the time you've actually done a few lines on the model, it's dry on the palette, so you have to take more and water it down again. Whereas on the wet palette, it stays wet. You can leave it and come back to it if you put the lid on tightly enough.
Yeah.
Ours are just Tupperware containers.
Yeah, I got my Tupperware container from a Chinese takeaway. I had a chicken omelette. Lovely. And all it is literally a piece of kitchen towel. The disposable kitchen towel, like your Bounty and what have you. Is it called Bounty or was it Plenty or?
Plenty now.
Plenty. Oh, I can't remember. They
Yeah, we
changed
changed the name.
Change the name. Anyway, kitchen towel and a bit of baking paper or baking parchment or whatever you want to call it. The different names.
Yeah.
And it works because it creates that one-way membrane. And I got this. The way to do I did it was from Darren Latham. He's one of the model designers at Games Workshop. He's got a YouTube video. Seriously, we'll put a link to that in the show notes. Go watch that. It will change your painting. Anyway,
Yeah.
another tangent, but actually a good one.
A good tangent for people. But
Because
I'm going
that's
to
a
improve my
painting
edge
technique.
highlighting through that.
Yeah, that's a painting
I'm going to
technique.
use that to improve my edge highlighting.
Yeah, okay. So my goals personally, now, I've not set a number, because last year it was like, I want to paint more than what I painted, which the year before, which is 867. And I've gone way over that. So I'm not going to say,
Don't
I'm
try
going to
and paint
paint
more.
I'm
Don't
going to
try and
paint
paint more.
1,500 models. Just not going to happen. So I want to work on various armies and various things. So I want to paint 2,000 points of Necrons for Warhammer 40k. I want to paint 1,000 points of early war Germans for Bolt Action. 2,000 points of Flesh Eater Courts for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, although that's going to require some model buying. I want to paint my Scourge for Drop Fleet Commander. I want to paint all my Scourge for Drop Fleet Commander, but I'm going to have to strip some of those ships because I'm going to do them in a color shift.
Ooh, that'll be nice.
Yeah, I've got a Turbo Door color shift, Shell Shocked, and these are, I mean, that just agitate is in the bottle. It's a lovely paint, and honestly, seriously, when it goes on, it's gonna be that color, that green to purple,
Yeah.
and it's just gonna look fantastic. And I'm gonna
I've seen
put
pictures
that
of them
over
with
a
colour shift on them.
over a gloss black.
That's going to look good.
It's gonna look really good. Okay, I also want to paint Blackstone Fortress and its expansions because I bought it when it was out. I bought all the expansions for it,
been sat
literally
there.
everything. It's been sat there. It's gonna get done. And I want to bring my Mechanicum for Horus Heresy up to 3,000 points, including the Warhound Titan.
The big question on everybody's lips is your pile of shame going to get smaller with all of this? Or are you simply just going to buy more?
No, I am going to buy less this year. I am going to buy less this year. I bought quite a bit last year. I mean, the pandemic sent me into sort of buy everything. So as soon as I was getting some money from Lindsay, I was like buying something. Probably not the right way to go about it. I want to add a few things to the pile, but not as much as I have done in previous years.
Well, there you go.
That's about it,
Fulfill your goals.
Couple of models for the Death
it
Guard.
down.
Yeah. There's a couple of other things I'd like to do as well, like rebase the Space Wolves, put them onto 32mm bases, but I definitely want to rebase the Orcs, though. Maybe get all the Orcs finished off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. there's also a fantastic Discord server that Jess has set up, because if you don't know Discord, it's kind of a chat program. It's sort of a, I don't know if anybody remembers Google Wave.
I do not.
No, Google Wave was fantastic, just way ahead of its time. Discord is it's a bit more of a gamery orientated version of Slack. And I think a lot of people might know Slack from working, especially in office-based environments and teams. So it's a bit like that. And it's a very friendly and welcoming place. I think Megan's got a lot to say about that.
Yeah, you got me onto it. I was reluctant to actually join Discord and the server because, wargaming groups can be like really macho places, really unwelcoming, especially to women. But this group's like the opposite because everyone's open there to chat, and there's a lot of positive comments about models rather than being quite negative and nitpicky about things. And any feedback that people might ask for, there's always constructive and positive bits in there too. And there's no tearing each other down, and it's welcoming to the LGBTQ community as well, because I'm in members of the team adminning the group, part of that community. So anybody that's part of that community can feel like it's a safe and welcoming space for them as well.
Exactly, and there's not there is a bit of hostility towards that on Facebook, sadly, and women hobbyists do get a lot of aggression on Twitter, although that probably is a better environment than Facebook. But it's a good server. Key focus is hobby, but also very friendly with the obligatory Pets and Floofs channel.
Yeah, started by you.
I didn't start it. I suggested it.
You suggested that.
I suggested it.
You said, look, I want to show you a picture of my cat.
Yeah, it gets pictures of Barrington and Jenny and Bonnie, and I don't think we've put Gandalf up there.
I don't think I have. I need to fix that.
Ugh.
I'll go and fix that when we've done recording.
Anyway, we highly recommend you go join the server. We're going to throw a link up on our show notes on the podcast website, which is hobbyroom.uk.
Yeah. So we couldn't really talk about this. It's not really fair on Jess if we don't mention that she's also a commission painter, and a really good one too.
Really, really good. You can see what she posts on Instagram, how good a painter at the is. She's very reasonably priced, doing tabletop standard for 2 times GWRP, which is not a bad rate at all. And her work is really good. At the minute, she's on a bit of an old hammer kick. She's doing a Warhammer Fantasy Battles Wood Elves army, a very 90s Wood Elves army.
Really cool.
Yeah, back from when I played Warhammer Fantasy. Although I did Chaos Dwarves, and I think her models are sort of newer than the ones I had when I was a kid. But if you do want to support her, but you can't commission any models or you paint yourself, awesome. You can still support her because she's got a Patreon.
Yep.
And we ourselves do as well. We back that Patreon and, put $1 or $2 in the tip jar. Awesome. Or you can buy her a coffee on Ko-Fi. So yeah, that's about it really.
Yeah.
So move into a closing, I guess. So thank you guys for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the show. If there's anything you'd like to give us feedback from, that would be amazing.
Yep. If there's anything you'd like to see featured or anything that you would like to talk about, then you can get in touch with us. We're on Facebook and Instagram on the Hobby Studio Podcast.
And we're on Twitter at Hobby Studio Pod. The website is hobbystudio.edgeofempire.co.uk, and those links will be in the show notes. So what kind of things do we think we'll cover next show, Megan?
We'll be covering Star Wars Legions and The Walking Dead.
Walking Dead, yes, The Walking Dead. Forgot there for a minute, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah. There, those two will definitely be covered, and probably something else as well.
Yes, we'll fit something else in there as well. Hopefully something for everybody.
So in the meantime, if you want to share your hobby progress with us, that would be fantastic. We'd love to see it. And keep on painting and playing.
Yeah. So, bye.
Maybe not so much playing right now.
There's less playing going on because of what the situation
Yeah.
is.
I guess so. No excuse for unpainted armies, though. Nah, I'm only joking. People got work. But, yeah, thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.